We are in the midst of the college bowl season, college football playoffs, and there's a lot of fun stuff to discuss. So let's get to it. Welcome to the Empire State Sports Report, brought to you by Believe Network and FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook is the #1 sports betting app. Download it today and make sure to bet responsibly. I am your host, Adrianna. I'm also known as New York Giants fangirl across social media because I am, unfortunately, these days, a diehard New York Giants fan. But the bad news is that, of course, the Giants have done a lot of losing. The good news is that watching college football is a little bit more exciting because the Giants have had some top first round picks. So that's what we're going to do today. The Giants and the Raiders are facing off in the Tank Bowl on Sunday for the #1 overall pick, but they need a lot of help on this team. And Dave Syvertsen from Ourlads Scouting is going to help talk us through some of his favorite players, good fits for the New York Giants, and what they've done in college. So welcome Dave Syvertsen to the show. If you guys don't know who he is a scout for Ourlads. They do two things that you need to know about. #1 is their depth charts for the NFL. If there's any type of injury, any changes, roster moves, you name it, Ourlads is the first place that has the depth chart updated. So make sure you check them out. I will link this all in the show notes. And the second thing is their draft guide. It's unbelievable. I bought it last year and it's 50 plus pages of everything you need to know about college football players that are entering the draft. There's their size, weight, school, history, transfer portal, highlights, like what they're good at, their strengths, weaknesses. It is absolutely incredible. If you're a football nerd like me, trust me, you got to get it this year, especially if you're into college football. So Dave and I are going to talk through the upcoming bowl games. We are going to talk through players to watch, good fits for the New York Giants, who his favorite players are that the Giants should go after, and more. So enjoy the episode, you guys. Welcome Dave to the show. All right, so we're welcoming Dave Syvertsen to the show. We are going to go through the college football playoff and talk about players in every game. Welcome, Dave. I'm very excited to have you back.
Good to see you again. Merry Christmas to you and everyone.
Yes, same to you. All right, let's go ahead and get right into it because we were just talking and we're like, there's a lot to talk about. Let's start with Miami, Ohio State, because this is a big one, especially with the Giants drafting anywhere within the top 10. We could talk about Carnell Tate just from Ohio State. We've got Carnell Tate, Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, and I'm sure I'm missing about 17 other players from Ohio State that we could discuss.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State right now, we just got done saying that at this point of the process, you have to talk about every possibility because none of us know where the Giants are going to end up in the draft order at the end of the season, but you also don't know what the trade down situation is going to be. Are they going to end up at 4, 7, 11? Are they going to wind up with multiple future firsts? Who knows? So those three names, I would say, are in the discussion from this team alone: Carnell Tate, Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs. And I've had Carnell Tate as my wide receiver 1 for basically since October. And he's done nothing but just cement that. I don't see it changing. A lot of people like Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, but we're talking about multiple lower body injuries, including a torn ACL, a hamstring strain, and then a re-strain of his hamstring just in the past month or two. And that immediately just worries me because he's not an overly big guy. He's not an overly explosive guy. So Carnell Tate, it comes back to him, 6'3", 195. I think this is T. Higgins to what Malik Neighbors. If Malik Neighbors is Jamar Chase, Carnell Tate could be T. Higgins to Malik Neighbors. All right. So 209 wide receivers had 11 or more contested targets in 2025, meaning someone was draped all over him and he still had the ball thrown his way. Tate was #1 in the country among those 209 receivers at the 85.7 catch rate. I don't want to get too into analytics, but just so you know, Rome Odunze got drafted in the top 10 overall a couple of years ago to the Chicago Bears, partially because he was so good in contested situations. And we started to see that here in year 2. His rate was right around 73%. Carnell Tate, 0 drops despite being average target 15 yards down the field. So he's not getting a bunch of screen passes. The guy does not drop the ball. In addition to that, if you want to take the analytics out of it, what is the eye test? He probably has the best ball skills I've seen of any wide receiver over the past 3 to 4 years. And they come out of Ohio State very well schooled. They've been pumping out wide receivers under Brian Hartline, who's going to take over the head coach job at South Florida, I think it is. But he's got the best route running. He's got the best ball tracking. I think he's a good enough athlete that if the Giants really want to beef up this offense and give Jackson Dart full support, and they're confident they can do the offensive line in free agency with one or two guys, Carnell Tate's got to be the guy if they're anywhere in the top 5.
Yeah, I've watched a few Ohio State games, and every time I have my eyes on him, I'm just impressed with everything I've seen. And, as a Giants fan, after watching these games and watching Darius Slayton and Theo Johnson, like the drops are such a problem, and they have been a problem for years at this point. And we don't know if Malik Neighbors is going to be ready to go week 1. We don't know what they're going to do about Wan'Dale Robinson's. But when you look at the wide receiver position as a whole, it's like, okay, well, we have Malik Neighbors and Darius Slayton under contract.
Yep. That's it.
And Bo Collins, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
you're not going to be a productive offense with those guys at wide receiver, and you're always one injury away from having nothing, which is what we're watching right now. They don't have anything at wide receiver. Wan'Dale has had a great year. I don't want to take anything away from him, but one of the biggest decisions that either Joe Shane or a new GM will have to make is what to do with him, because I do like him in his current role at his current contract. But if he's going to stay in this role and stay at this production, you're going to have to pay him 15, 16 mil a year. To me, I'd much rather pursue wide receivers in the draft and use that money elsewhere on the roster to support Jackson Dart.
That's what I was thinking too. And I'm so torn between in whatever they do in the top 10, because I love Carnell Tate so much. But there's a big part of me that's like, well, can we get a stud wide receiver in potentially round 2, since we know we don't have this 3rd round pick, and our defense is such a mess.
Yep.
But I'm not really for overpaying a wide receiver in free agency. I just think that where we're at right now, you already paid Darius Slayton. You can't just go and cut him with no issues there. So I would rather the money be used on veteran offensive linemen, especially someone like Jermaine Illuminor that we should have re-signed about 10 weeks ago and things like that. But are there any other wide receivers in this game? I know Jeremiah Smith's a big name, but I'm pretty sure he's not declaring. He's still pretty young.
Yeah, he won't come out this year. It's funny. I get into a back and forth debate sometimes just for fun, because we like to debate sports fans, right? If Jeremiah Smith was allowed to come out this year, would he still go number 1 overall? And even though he wouldn't be allowed to play in 2026. And it's funny, if you were picking at number 1, the Giants, and you were allowed to take him, but he couldn't play until 2027, would you still do it? And I think my answer would be yes, because he is that kind of special. Really? But the fun player to me in this game is actually wearing the other uniform, and it's Miami's CJ Daniels. He's not a day 2 pick. You're looking at a day 3 type. And remember, Darius Slayton was a day 3 type, and we like to bash him now because he got the long contract. The drops have been an issue since he's been in the league. But look, for a 4th or 5th round pick that he's given the Giants solid value. We're just upset that he didn't take that step up, and we're upset, I am personally, that they re-signed him this past year. I thought that was a bad contract, and it was a panic move by the Giants front office, because they have not done a good enough job, Jalen Hyatt, for example, finding other players that could step into that number 3/number 4 role. But CJ Daniels is a guy that he's played at 3 different programs: Liberty, LSU, and Miami. Coaches at all 3 programs have said he's got the best hands you've ever seen. And if anyone wants to see what he's capable of doing, just YouTube the name CJ Daniels, and you'll see the catch of the year from early in the season that CJ Daniels had. He did miss 3 games in November, undisclosed injury. Contested catch, very good. Yard after catch, not so much. So you're talking like an Amani Toomer type possession guy. He's not a playmaker, but he's someone that I think could replace a Darius Slayton, who to me is a number 4 guy. And those guys have some value when injuries pile up. But that's the other guy in this game that I think is worth looking at in the draft if you're only looking at this game. But I'm sure we'll talk about a couple different receivers as we get into some of the deeper games.
Yeah. And, when you look at other teams, and when I look at some of the candidates that could be an option maybe for GM if the Giants go in that direction, I look like someone like John McKay from the Rams, and you look at the guys that they have drafted, and Puka Nacua is obviously, him and CJ Daniels are not the same, but the fact that he was a 5th round pick, they pick someone like that with their 5th round, and we get Darius Slayton. So I know we can talk about the GM and all of that, but getting value in those later rounds, like they did with a Cam Scatterbo, like they did with Marcus Bowe in the last year. Yeah. They haven't done that in the years prior to that, which is why we have all of these massive holes.
Yeah. Yeah. So the drafting has been a disaster for a long time. There's no way around that. Early rounds, mid rounds, late rounds, You always say with every draft pick, you have a goal for that round. First round, you want them to be foundational players. You can put the Pro Bowl label on them if you want, but guys that you're going to re-sign to a second contract. Second and third round for me is where you find like the nucleus of the roster, the starters, the guys that, hey, they're not stars, but they're quality starters. And then you get into early day 3, you want guys that can rotate in. They're that sixth offensive lineman, that situational pass rusher, the slot receiver, the nickel corner, all those guys. You want to hit singles and doubles just over and over in the draft. But every now and then, if you get a home run and a Puka Nacua, you can make up for a swing and a miss in round 1, because every GM, every team swings and misses in the first round. If you look 5-10 years, everyone swings and misses at some point. But if you make up for it with a triple or home run in round 5 and get a Puka Nacua or even just a quality starter in round 5, those mistakes are forgivable. But if you're making mistakes in all sections of the draft, you're not getting starters, you're not getting Pro Bowlers, you're not building a nucleus, you're not getting good depth and special teamers on day 3 and undrafted free agency, this is exactly what the result will be. You are at the basement of the NFL.
Yeah. And it's been very evident with the 2022 and the 2023 draft classes that not a lot of those guys are sticking around.
Yeah.
But linebacker for me is a really big one, and I'm sure every Giants fan feels the same way. So let's talk a little bit about Arvell Reese, because what I have seen from him is that he's got the edge linebacker hybrid combo. And I've seen some analysts say that they think the best position for him when he goes to the NFL is edge rusher. And if that's the case, the Giants already have 3 of them. So if they trade Kayvon and they go Arvell Reese, that's one thing. But other thing to me too is like when we talk about Caleb Downs, it's like if they re-sign Dane Belton, are you still taking another safety after you took Tyler Nubin that high, after you just brought in Javon Holland? Is Joe Shane doing that? Probably not. But if a new GM comes in, I don't know, maybe they're going to go in that direction.
My philosophy, I try to keep things as simple as possible. And if you look at your roster, your depth chart, starters, backups, everything, and you're unsure about a position, right now the Giants, to me, they're unsure at safety. They're unsure at linebacker. They're unsure at tight end even now, with Theo Johnson just kind of feeling like he's plateauing a little bit. If you're unsure, you don't have one. And you can go into that offseason saying we need to improve that area. And the worst thing that could happen is you have too many good players at a spot. I mean, when's the last time the Giants could say that? So I wouldn't be afraid of saying, oh, we have too many good safeties. If you get to that problem, you'll figure it out. I think you'll be okay. But let's not even go there, because you're not even close to there. The roster has more holes than any roster in the NFL, in my opinion, right now. They have a couple of solid foundational pieces in Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, maybe Jackson Dart, maybe. But to me, there's no spot on this roster that you can say, hey, we don't need to add anyone to. So other than quarterback. So Arvell Reese, to me, he's a hot name. He's probably been the biggest riser in season in the country among draft eligible players. He kind of went from an unknown situational rotational backup to all of a sudden he might be a number 1 overall pick. Oh, wow. Some are labeling him top 5 because of what he can be. But to me, what is he? This time of year, everyone loves to use the word versatility. He's hybrid. Well, what are you doing with him, though? Like, what is the plan? What is he doing on first and second down? We know he's probably going to rush the passer on third down, but you don't get to third down if you don't defend first and second down well. So it almost doesn't matter. And that's why I like to say, fix the run defense. Is Arvell Reese really going to help the run defense? And my answer right now is no. An off-ball linebacker, where do you want to take that? Micah Parsons went 12th overall in 2021. And then he ended up being a full-time edge. Isaiah Simmons went 8th overall in 2020, did not work out. 2019, Devin White went 5 overall. Devin Bush went 10th overall 2019. Roquan Smith went 8th overall in 2018. None of these guys are going top 5. And to me, if you're going to label him a pass rusher, which that is where his best tape is, listen to this. He has rushed the passer 131 times over his career. Abdul Carter, if that's the name you want to bring up, he rushed the passer 350 times in 2024 alone.
Wow.
So in one season, he's rushed the pass. So like you had a full season. He rushed 547 times as a pass rusher over his career. So you had a lot of tape of watching Abdul Carter rush the passer. That's why you felt good about him at 3 overall. You're guessing with Arvell Reese because he looks good in pursuit. But if you watch the 7 plays in between those, you're kind of underwhelmed as an off-ball linebacker. And that's where I'm not really there with him as a top 10 prospect.
Yeah. And, any game you watch this year, stopping the run has been such a problem with this
Yeah.
team
Multiple
that
years.
it's so bad. And between Burns, regardless of what they do with Thibodeau, between Burns and Edge and Carter, you got to feel good about the edge. Like the middle is where we really need some help. So do you have any other linebackers in that game, Miami versus Ohio State?
Yeah, the linebacker that I actually like almost just as much as Reese, maybe even better at this point, is Sonny Styles. This is a 3-year starter, 4th-year guy. He just turned 21 last month, so he started his college career young. His father played in the NFL. He's one of the freakiest athletes. You're going to hear his name when the combine comes around. He's going to blow testing out of the water at 245 pounds. He's played his best football this year against the inside run. That's a guy that he's got more pass breakups than his teammate Caleb Downs at safety over the past couple years. I mean, this guy can do it all. He's, I think, 6'4", 6'5". That's a guy that, to me, I feel better about him playing inside linebacker. You could probably get him in the 2nd round. But you mentioned the interior, right? The defense, there's a defensive tackle. There's a couple in this game. But from Ohio State, an emerging player is Caden McDonald. This defensive line coach, Larry Johnson Sr., he's put in a lot of really quality defensive tackles into the league in recent years. Davon Hamilton, Tyleek Williams. These are guys that McDonald just reminds me of. Yes, part of it's the uniform, but the body type, the ability to anchor. He's not a pass rusher. But again, like you said, let's fix this run defense first. And hopefully Darius Alexander can evolve into something. But again, if you're hoping, that means you don't have anything at this point yet. So Caden McDonald is a guy that I think could be a 2nd-round pick and a really solid option for them.
And even if you look at our defensive tackles too, like Nacho's going to be a free agent. Yep. DJ Davidson is going to be a free agent. They don't really have a lot of depth there. Jordan Riley's gone. And these, some of these guys were Joe Shane draft picks. So, Darius Alexander, like you said, year 1, I mean, he didn't even play, I think, the first 4 weeks because Andre Patterson was like, he's not ready. He needs to work on his technique. And I like the Darius Alexander pick at the time, but obviously these guys are still young. They need to develop and he's getting there. He's getting more playing time and looking better. But, with some of these guys going to be free agents, Roy Robertson Harris, like this team is going to need some reinforcements there. Let's talk about Caleb Downs, because I know that he is a very popular name too in this game. And we briefly touched on the safety situation for the Giants, but the reality is that they could probably use some help there and everywhere in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, just defense, right? I mean, even at nickel, Andrew Phillips is in and out of the lineup, and Caleb Downs can play that role at a high level. Tyler Newman, to me, is not a guy that you're going to build around. It's a good guy to have on the roster. If he's your backup safety, that means you have a pretty solid safety room. But Caleb Downs, to me, just by the way, he's the brother of wide receiver Josh Downs from the Indianapolis Colts. Just a fun fact there, if you don't know that. But, to me, I have written all over my game notes, he's just an easy evaluation. He's just a really good football player. He knows the game. He's fast. He's physical. You can put him everywhere. The problem is, does he make a big difference? It's one, and this is where it's a fun debate to have. It gets a little nauseating at times when people want to say, no, you can't take a safety in the top 10. You can't take one in the top 5. I'm like, this draft, by the way, everyone, is really bad in the top 10. The tackles, the quarterbacks, the wide, there's not a lot of them. So you're going to see a running back, Jeremiah Love, go early. You're going to see safety, Caleb Downs, go early. But the one argument against him is how big of a difference truly will he make? He has 6 career interceptions in 43 games. That's 1 every 7 games. Same thing, 6 career pass breakups, 1 every 7 games, 0 forced fumbles, 2 sacks. He hasn't allowed a touchdown in coverage over the past 2 years. Like, that's something he can hang his hat on. But to me, I had the same exact grade, exclusive from each other, of Kyle Hamilton, Brian Branch, and Cooper DeJean. All 3 of those guys on my grading sheet was an 85. All 3 of those guys went later than expected, and it's because of the position they play. They just don't make that big of a difference. And it's hard to go into the top 5 of the draft knowing that you need linemen, you need playmakers, you might need another pass rusher, and take a safety. But I'll tell you what I like about Caleb, you know exactly what you're getting with this kid. He's a 3-time All-American, 2-time Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year. Kid's got 2 punt return touchdowns. I mean, he's nice. Every game you watch, he's doing something productive for the team. It's just not this standout, explosive, game-changing plays. But to me, the Giants, they just don't have enough good football players. And you'll never get criticism from me if you draft a really good football player such as Caleb Downs. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of teams kicking themselves for not drafting Kyle Hamilton early, Brian Branch early, and Cooper DeJean early.
Yeah. And I think when you look at this team too, the fact that we have the quarterback, at least for next year, throughout his rookie contract, most likely, is they can go in any direction. They can go best player available because there's so many holes that they need filled, which is crazy. We haven't touched much on the offensive line, which I want to touch on in a minute because I've heard that Miami is filled with them. But the one thing that I think about quite often when we talk about the safety position is Nick Saban. Back when the Giants drafted him, saying he was my favorite safety in the class, raving about him, all of these good things. The Giants got a great pick, yada, yada, yada. And I just am like, I know our coaching staff was bad. I know that. Were they that bad, or is Nick Saban way off? Like, I just can't figure out what the disconnect and what the issue is there. Like, what is
with Tyler Nubin?
Yes.
You know, Joe Shane said that their analytics staff, which I do think Joe Shane might lean a little too hard into. I don't know him personally. I don't know their system, but I remember him saying that they have found that turnovers in college translate to the NFL at the safety position. I remember that being a quote. And he's done anything but. Like, literally, I think he's been one of the least ball productive safeties since he's been drafted. And he's played a lot of football for this team. And it goes to show, maybe it's partially system, maybe it's partially there isn't enough pass rush consistency up front that forces quarterbacks to throw the ball earlier. But to me, when I watch Nubin, he's just not fast enough. He just doesn't react fast enough. He doesn't move fast enough. And one scout told me this, that'll always, and this translates to coaches as well, is you never know what you have until they're in the building, period. You can scout them all day. You can watch every snap 15 times over the entire career. You can interview them, interview the support staff, get opinions from coaches. You don't know until they're in the building. And I think that's a big part of what happened with Evan Neal too, that if the confidence isn't there, I don't want to kill their work ethic. I don't know enough about their personal lives, but maybe their confidence got hurt to the point they just can't play football free. Maybe the scheme didn't fit. Maybe they weren't communicating well on the back end. But this is why you go into a draft, and I'm big on just pursuing value. I'm not big on pursuing positions because you never know what's going to happen. And it's good to have plan A, plan B, plan C.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like it has felt like there's a lack of preparedness, whatever you want to call it, with the way that they have gone about drafting these players. I mean, the whole slogan for the last 5 years is smart, tough, dependable. Does Tay Banks or Evan Neal or Jalen Hyatt fit any one of those categories? Like,
no, zero. I think a lot of that stuff is just PR. They put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I like stuff that's a little bit more objective, like proven. Like, I like big, fast, physical, like get big guys, get fast guys, get physical guys. You can watch tape and know if they're physical or not. And I think I hope whatever they do from here on out, that becomes the objective here, is pursue objective results, not just, hey, they're nice guys. Because at the end of the end, this is a violent, fast, big physical game. Those are the guys that you need. And that's who they're losing to on a weekly basis. The guys that are bigger, faster, more physical.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit earlier about the athleticism and about, someone like Isaiah Simmons, who, was versatile and super athletic and, could never get it figured out. But then I look at someone like Nick Emanwari, who the big thing with him was that he's an athletic freak. And that's why he went as high. But look at who their coach is. Mike McDonald, the Seattle defense, like, he just knew what to do with him. And I know as Giants fans, like, we've really witnessed like what bad coaching versus what good coaching can do. But you see all these different instances with someone like him, how well it has worked out there.
Yeah, cohesion. And that's something we can't know from the outside. How much cohesion is there from the front office to the coaching staff and then onto the players? If they're not working in unison, you're not going to win, because a lot of these franchises, the Rams, to me, they're the cream of the crop when it comes to cohesion from the top on down. Like the 53rd man on the roster or the last guy in the practice squad, all the way up to the general manager. They are on the same exact page. There's chemistry. There's a system. They all believe in it. And that's where I think the Giants have really missed the boat. And I hate to say this at this time with which Giants ownership's going through, but that's usually a leadership problem when there's not cohesion.
Yeah, the only thing that will give me hope is if we get the first overall pick, then we're definitely getting a new GM, which, by the way, the Raiders just announced that they are sitting Max Crosby, who's played every game this year, who all of a sudden has a knee injury. I'm like, if the NFL doesn't investigate them for openly tanking, come on. At least Andrew Thomas left the game with a hamstring last week.
And they put a couple other guys. I think Jeremy Chin went on IR.
Yes, and Brock Bowers.
Yep, Brock Bowers. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a tough game to lose tomorrow on Sunday.
I'm so mad. I want the Giants to just be like, oh, Jackson Dart has an injury. We're starting Russ Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots last year, they sat Drake May, I think, after the first drive of week 18 last year to protect him. And if Andrew Thomas is not out there, I'm not sure I want Jackson Dart out against there either, because the Cowboys, they're out of it, but they're playing hard. They played hard yesterday. Their pass rush has actually improved somewhat. I don't want Jackson Dart dropping back a ton and tearing his ACL or doing something serious week 18, which is going to impede him next year. So maybe the Giants can play that card as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I mean, who will never forget what the Eagles did with Doug Peterson, right? They did something similar week 18. So
yeah, they threw it. I mean, teams throw it. I mean, they get admitted or not. And I don't think it's also we're trying to lose. I think it's like, let's protect our guys so that we can go into the offseason healthy rather than having another injury that we have to worry about.
Right. Especially a rookie quarterback who's going to have a whole new coaching staff this offseason, new players, potential new offensive linemen, the whole thing. So, all right. With that being said, let's get into the offensive linemen, because I have not watched a ton of Miami games, but everything that I've seen and heard is that they are a brick wall, that there are multiple offensive linemen from Miami that are coming out in this draft. And I know as Giants fans, we can never have too many.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what, there's one guy that's really a first rounder to me, and they have a couple underclassmen. I'm not sure if they're going to come out. So I really think this is, to me, I'm looking at one offensive lineman, especially, again, we're talking about the top of the draft. And his name's Francis Maui-Noa. It's spelled Maui-Goa with a G. They pronounce things weird. I'm still kind of working on some of my pronunciations for guys in this class. That's a project in and of itself. But Maui-Noa, he's their right tackle. He's number 61. Everyone and their mother is saying that he's going to be a guard at the next level. I do lean in that direction. However, he's been playing really good this year. And getting him in the building gives you options with him and Marcus Bowe. If you let Jermaine Illuminator walk, those two guys are going to be the right side of your offensive line. Who plays tackle, who plays guard. But this guy is by far the top offensive prospect on this team by a long shot. He's got elite power, ACC Offensive Lineman of the Year, and All-American. He was on the Bruce Feldman freak list for how he just has a different level of power, and it shows up on tape. The offensive line coach from the Philadelphia Eagles, I've learned as much offensive line scouting and evaluation from him as anybody. And he said the number one thing you want to look for, what he looks for, top offensive line coach in the NFL, is how often they can displace defenders, meaning they take a grown man and put him where they want to put him. They move a guy against his own will. He does this like it's his job. And to me, I lean towards, let's not talk about tackles, guards, and centers. Let's talk about 5 offensive linemen. The Giants need multiple upgrades along the offensive line. I don't care if you put him at tackle or guard. To me, right now, he's playing like a top 10 pick. And this is going to be a nice test for him. He's going to face off against multiple future pros in this game alone. And I'm really excited to see how he's going to play, because right now he's one of the guys I'm considering for the Giants in the top 10, no matter where they end up.
Okay. That's one of the things that I really complained about early on in the season with this offensive line is that, you watch great offensive lines like the Eagles, like the Lions, like, some of these ones in the league, and the line just manhandles people. Yep. And every time I'm watching the Giants, especially early on, it felt like they were getting manhandled every time, aside from the fact that they couldn't, even open up holes in the run game. Like they couldn't even hold the guys in space. It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and I think one of the thoughts that people have with offensive line play is something that we thought 15, 20 years ago when we grew up watching the game, that the tackles are the best players. They're the only ones that need to be athletic and quick on their feet and twitchy. Pass rushes are different today's guys. Like there's defensive tackles that are more athletic than Michael Strahan was. I mean, there's this guy, and on a lot of teams, like you need 5 good linemen to make me feel good, about Jackson Dart going into 2026 being safe. And Thomas is there. Schmitz has played okay, but he's not great. Runyon's going to be here no matter what because of the contract. But you can look at, and we don't know about Marcus Bowe yet. So to me, it's what I said earlier. If you don't have 5 good offensive linemen, go get an offensive lineman if the value's right. Those guys make other players better. Yeah. And that's where I think that's what the Bears have done at a really high level. They revamped their interior offensive line last offseason with multiple trades. The New England Patriots, they revamped their offensive line. Look where we're at. Guys, look at year 2, Drake May, year 2, Caleb Williams. It's not the playmakers, right? It's the coaching, so they got to get that right. We know that, okay? But personnel-wise, offensive line needs to be better. This kid's an option.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I'm now most disappointed in on Sunday. Obviously I'm a little concerned about Jackson Dart, but Marcus Bowe versus Max Crosby is a hell of a test. Yeah. I mean, I know he's not getting that much time to really prepare for it, but I'm like, this is at the end of the season, this is the stuff that matters. Like Jackson Dart going against the Brian Flores defense last week. Was it a tough game? Yes, but look what Jared Goff did against the same defense. He was 10 times worse. So, I think Kafka kind of was stunting Dart a little bit last week, but some of these reps are valuable, and Marcus Bowe going against Max Crosby would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been really beneficial to watch that. And Raiders even have a couple other guys on the edge that are really good. I've been saying for a couple of weeks, I want to see that kid out in the field. And I'm probably going to lose this battle, but I want to see him at guard too, because I still think that's where he's going to end up long term. But they're going to keep him at tackle for now because of the athleticism, and they have a little bit more options inside. But I agree with you. These last 2 weeks should be about experimenting to see what you have for next year, because we're done with this year. So are the Raiders. They're IRing everybody. So why wouldn't you do the same?
Yeah, I know. For once, I'd love to see the Giants get off their high horse and be like, you know what? Everyone else is doing it. We're going to do the same thing. Because for once, we'd like to actually protect our players, since whatever our training staff is doing is not helping them. Yep. Okay. Any Ohio State offensive linemen?
They have a kid that's going to be draft eligible. I don't know if he's going to come out. His name is Austin. I don't want to get this last name wrong. Austin Searveld, he's their left tackle. He's a kid that has 2 seasons of eligibility left, and my guess is he's not first or second round caliber right now. So my guess is he's going to go back to school. He just doesn't look strong enough. He's a young kid. He's probably going to make a move inside at some point, but Ohio State doesn't have much that you're going to get too excited about along the offensive line for this year. They usually do, but next year we'll be talking about a couple of their guys.
Okay. Any other players we should talk about in this game before we move on to Oregon, Texas Tech?
I think Oregon, Texas Tech is probably, you have the one name I'm going to throw out there is Ruben Bain Jr., the edge defender from Miami. If the Giants decide to move on from Kayvon Thibodeau, because you are going to pay him $15 million next year. At this point of the process, trading him is a possibility. I don't think it's likely, but it's a possibility. And if they do that, and they're still at the top of the draft, Ruben Bain Jr. is number 2 in the country in pressures. He has completely taken over games 4 different times this year. Over 7 pressures. He's power, he's balance, he's run defense, he's a pass rusher. He can line up in different spots. He does lack length. He's a little bit not as explosive as some of these guys that you normally see at the top of the draft. But Ruben Bain Jr., they have a defensive tackle, Ahmad Moten Sr., defensive tackle, and another defensive end, Akeem Mesidor, that I think you guys should keep an eye on, because they're day 2 picks that can help this team next year.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's move along to Oregon, Texas Tech. I have not watched many of either of these games, but I have heard a lot about Oregon, and obviously from Kayvon, and over the years, we've seen a lot of really talented football players come out of that team.
Yeah, Oregon, to me, they have someone that's early in the year I was projecting to be a top 10 pick at tight end that reminded me of Brock Bowers. His name's Kenyon Sadiq. Didn't have the year I wanted. I think part of that's just a tough – they spread the ball out. They have so much NFL talent on the offense that – Brock Bowers was the Georgia offense. He got they built everything around him, so he just got more opportunities. But Sadiq, to me, he's somewhere in between Brock Bowers and Evan Engram. And before anyone freaks out about the Evan Engram, right? He's better than Evan Engram, who was a first-round pick, by the way. Not as good as Brock Bowers as draft prospects. And the reason why I compare Sadiq to Evan Engram is how explosive he is. He's a special athlete. He's probably going to run on the 4.4s. He's 250 pounds, and you know what he can do? he can freaking block. I mean, he put Abdul Carter through the ground last year when they faced off against Penn State in the Big Ten championship last year. He did have a lot of drops this year, and there were so that's one thing that I can't put a really high elite grade on you if you're dropping the ball a lot. This is a personal philosophy of mine, but I do think he's a special athlete that would fit in well with the Giants because Theo Johnson is like this 6'6", 260-pounder, kind of awkward, slow agility, slow reaction guy. He could be a Gronkowski type, not as good. And Kenyon City could be that Aaron Hernandez type where you line up in the slot, kind of a wide receiver type. And it could give your offense a lot of options if you have two tight ends that can make things happen. So that's the number one name. But we're on the offensive line. If you want to find a pure guard, I think the best guard, maybe one of the best 2 or 3 guards in the draft is playing in this game for Oregon. Emmanuel Pregnon. Wide, long frame, All-American. He's rock solid. 1 penalty, 3 pressures all year combined. I mean, that is really rare. For those that don't keep track of that is incredibly rare to see either one of those numbers, low penalties and low pressures. This is going to be a huge test for him because there's multiple pros on this Texas Tech defensive line that he's going to be facing off against.
Wow. Okay, I love that. This is not related to this game, but I wonder if he's rated your number 1 guard because I think he's Mel Kiper's is the Penn State guard Vega Iona, Oliva Vega, I think is how he's pronounced. But he's supposed to be another top guard coming out.
Yeah, both of them are maulers, like really physical guys. And based on who runs this offense next year, you're going to be biased towards the athletes or going to be biased towards the maulers. And if they're having offense that's more biased towards, hey, let's be physical, let's be bigger, which is I prefer, both those guys will be in the discussion. There are offensive linemen drafted at the top of the second round pretty much every year that are a long time start. That is the sweet spot to find a quality offensive lineman, especially on the interior. So that's where you'll see one of those guys come off the board.
Yeah. Thinking about the offensive line, I have no idea what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to re-sign Illuminor. So I know that's a big position for a lot of people. But what about any wide receivers? I know we already talked about the tight end, which now I'm actually starting to get worried about the tight end position because Thomas Fidone was basically injured for most of the year. Daniel Bellinger and Chris Manhertz are going to be free agents. And then you've got Theo Johnson, who, doesn't have great hands.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky position. Like I'm in the camp right now. I'm not giving up on Theo Johnson, but I'm not making plans around him. And I think that's important for a front office to know. And this is another reason why I am biased towards the front office being, turned over this offseason, because sometimes GMs, they are biased towards the draft picks they already made. And they believed in Theo Johnson. Why would you give up on him 2 years after drafting him? They did this with Jalen Hyatt. I mean, who believed in Jalen Hyatt last year, let alone over the offseason? Why is he still on this roster? You want to know why? Because this regime drafted him. And
Same
you see that happen. Yeah, you see that happen a lot. So, if Malik Benson is a wide receiver from Oregon, he's their big play threat. He's the team's leading receiver. He's not I don't even think he's a first or second round guy. He's more of a day 3 guy, but he's always going to be one of the fastest players on the field. If you're going to try to make this wide receiver room a little more explosive, a little bit faster, that's a name that I think is going to be coming up at some point. Texas Tech has 2 day 3 wide receivers, Caleb Douglas and Jalen Virgil, both big, long, fast kids that transferred in. Again, they both don't catch the ball at a high level. I'm personally biased against it. Not everyone agrees with me. I mean, CeeDee Lamb drops a lot of passes, and that's why I wouldn't pay him the money that he's making. I think he's a true number 1, but you in evaluation, you have to start coming up with what do you want in a wide receiver, and it's not right or wrong. Some guys want size, some guys want speed. Like Mike McDaniel, he wants speed. Andy Reid, he wants speed. I want guys that can catch the ball, because to me, drops. We've seen it so many times over the years with some of our top receivers. It's a killer. It's like a penalty. It's like a sack. It's a lost opportunity. So those are 2 guys that I like day 3, but I wouldn't be touching them until late. There's not a ton of wide receiver talent on that team.
Okay. And anything in the slot? Because I really don't know what is going to happen with Wandale, but I'm also of the belief that I would like just versatile wide receivers. Malik Neighbors and Odell Beckham could be used in the slot, and they could be great slot receivers. We saw it with OBJ. I mean, more of a rotational piece, but the thing that I don't love about re-signing Wandale is I think his size is really limiting for him. And we've seen him used on post routes and stuff like that. But I don't really want to be relying on him for that. And I feel like he's best in the slot, but the short arms, the whole thing, like,
yeah.
not for
I mean,
me.
Wanda, I hate talking bad about Wanda because I did like him coming out of the draft, but I don't. Again, you have to kind of put a cap on how much you like these guys because they're limited.
Yeah.
His radius. I mean, I remember his wingspan was all time small. I think he had 29-inch arms. Like, not only is he short, but he's actually short limbed for that frame. Like his wingspan, the window in which you have to throw him the ball is just off the chart small, like bottom 5% all time. And that puts a lot of pressure on a quarterback that you have to be insanely accurate for that to work out. Now, Tom Brady, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, it worked out because Brady's unbelievably accurate. He knew exactly where the ball was going to go. Dart, I don't know if that's ever going to be a main strength of his game. There's a lot of strengths to his game. I don't think being pinpoint accurate is going to be one of them. So to me, if you're building a team around Jackson Dart, you can't give him someone that small. I'd rather them pursue a slot receiver like a Kenyon Sadiq. And I know we just got done calling him a tight end, but between him and Malik Neighbors, if they can switch in and out at the slot, because that is part of what makes Malik very special, is he can be really productive from the slot. You can intertwine these guys, and every now and then you find a different guy. I like Rashid Shaheed in free agency from Seattle. He's not going to cost that much money, I think. Those are guys that I think you don't have to go get an every down slot if you have guys that can also play that role. You can kind of mix and match and be a little bit more unpredictable. That's where I think they should lean instead of only pursuing a slot guy.
Well, especially after, oh my God, what's his name from the Bills? Shakir, I think it was, who just got a new contract. Supposedly Wandale's camp is eyeing that. It's around 13, if not more, million a year. And then I was listening to Dart's presser this week, and he was asked, Wandale Robinson is so close to 1,000 yards for the first time. Do you kind of feel pressure or whatever to help him get there? And he said, it's really important to me that I help him do that. Wandale came to me with statistics showing that no one of his size has ever had that happen in the NFL. So, I like Wandale. Same thing. I think they need an upgrade there. If they have the opportunity for it, I would just prefer that because there's so much.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's not a I like or dislike. It's just economics. I mean, you only have so much money to spend, and there's a lot of holes on this roster that I would rather put that money into. I'll be happy wherever he signs. He had a great contract year. Just got to be a little careful with those guys that have contract years or career years in their contract year. And I would just like him to get that contract somewhere else and be clap for him. When he comes back and wears a different uniform, you give him a little standing ovation, but I'd rather that money be spent elsewhere on the roster.
Yeah, I agree. Paying the wide receivers in free agency, I'm like, it's just not been great for us. Let's do something different.
You remember Kenny Galladay? Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I have seen Giants fans saying that they should sign Kenny Galladay before this game and make him the starter so we can guarantee the fact that we will lose.
They come up with everything, huh?
Yeah, they'll never give it up. I like the persistence there. Okay, let's switch gears to some defensive players between Oregon and Texas Tech, either linebacker, cornerback, safety, defensive tackle.
Everything.
Yeah, all the above.
Yeah, I mean, on Oregon, there's a defensive tackle. His name, I don't know if he's going to come out. He's a junior, Amori Washington. You look at him and you say, that guy was put on earth to play defensive tackle in the NFL. He's got the NFL-made body. He's massive. He's a physical run stuffer. That's kind of where he made his presence known in his first couple of years. But he's improving as a pass rusher, and that's moving him up my board personally over the past month. He's had 6 games this year with multiple pressures, including 3 in each of the last 3 games. So you can see this development happen in real time. Yes, in a perfect world, we see what these guys can do in college, and then he'll go do it in the NFL. Sometimes you really have to project what they might be able to do. So once you get this glimpse of week after week, 3 weeks in a row, 3 pressures, that's maybe the light's starting to come on for him. He's played the 5th most snaps along the defensive line in the Power 4, 5th most, probably the most in this draft class at defensive tackle. He'll have played the most football of all of them this past season. And we're not even into the back half of the playoffs. 7 pass breakups at the line of scrimmage, pass deflections. That was 2nd in the entire country. So there's things starting to click with him. You always knew the talent, the body, the tools were there, but now he's actually making things happen. The Giants need help along the defensive line. That's a guy, he's probably going to be a first-round pick. I don't think top 10, but who knows where the Giants will be picking, and maybe he does shake free to the second round.
Right. I know it's going to be interesting there, but defensive tackle they need some help there for sure.
Oregon's got another one too, Barry Alexander. He's a name that you have probably heard before if you followed college football. He's played at 3 schools. He's had some trouble. Now he's been at Georgia, at USC, and now at Oregon. Never in legal trouble. I don't know all the deep. I probably wouldn't disclose it here anyway, because just out of respect for him. But he's bounced around a lot, and it seems like he has settled in. But everywhere he's been, every coach is like, this dude is special. And you can see it. He's actually a better penetrator than Washington. 6.5 tackles for loss this year. He's just had a really crazy career, but he's hard to keep your eyes off of when you're watching him. The character issues that might bump him down to day 3. But again, this is what I mean. Every now and then you take a chance on day 3, not in the first round with DeAndre Baker or Kadarius Toney, but in day 3 you can take a character concern, and if it blows up in your face, it's okay. You give him the boot. But that's a guy that if you want to take a chance on defensive tackle, remember that name, Barry Alexander. I think he's number 1 or number 0, one of those 2.
Okay. Awesome. And then what about corners? Because we haven't talked about that a lot. We don't know what they're going to do with Cordell Flott. They have Paulson Adebo and Drew Phillips. Tay Banks is going to be gone. There's another position where they don't have a lot of depth.
They're vulnerable there. I mean, there's a kid from the Miami game that you guys could watch, Keontae Scott. He nickel outside hybrid, unbelievably productive behind the line of scrimmage against the run. I know that's not why you're going to draft a corner, but I don't like corners that aren't physical. And I like guys that make plays in the defensive backfield. And Keontae Scott has had a special season for Miami. Ohio State has Davison Igbinosun. He led the country with 16 penalties in 2024. The next highest was 11. The highest this year was 10. I mean, this guy is just all hands all the time. And that's kind of what you're getting with him, but he's very talented. And he cleaned it up a lot this year. I think he's only had 6 penalties this year. Reminds me of Joey Porter Jr., kind of got drafted in the second round by Pittsburgh. Just a really long, big corner that you don't have to get in the first round. But the Oregon game, Texas Tech, I don't have anything for you. The Oregon does have a kid, Theron Johnson, late round pick. They're a little thin at corner. That's actually one spot I think they're a little vulnerable in this game. The defensive line has hid some of the issues that they've had back there all year.
Okay. I want to hear your thoughts on Mansour Delane too, because he's supposed to be a top 10 pick, and the LSU is not playing this week in the college playoff, but he's a guy that I have as one of my top corners.
I think he is at the Senior Bowl this year. I got the updated list yesterday.
I think I saw that too. That he accepted.
That'll be a big week for him. He's had a great year. He's been on the radar for 2 years. Incredible speed. The one thing against him, not everyone's going to care. Some people will. He lacks length. I think the arm length is going to be sub 31 inches, which again, if you don't know or track that kind of stuff, that is a non-starter for some teams. They won't even look at you for whatever reason. Again, it's not right or wrong. It's just you have to have your template. What are you looking for? Really good football player, though. Had a really good year. LSU had a disaster season, but he was probably their best player on either side of the ball in terms of making themselves into a real first-round corner. Top 10, no. But the position, and this year, it's a weird year for corners. The top corner is a kid from Tennessee who did not play this year because he tore his ACL last January. So, and that's the number 1 guy. And I thought
I saw that, and I was like, how does this make any sense?
Jermod McCoy. So you're taking a chance on him, but his tape, we went back, our staff looked back at his tape from 2024. It's better than anyone's tape from 2025. So the risk is the medical, but the fortunate part about that is he tore it last January. So he's full go healthy now. He's going to be able to, I'm hoping he gets an all-star game invite, but he'll be at the combine. He'll work out for teams. It's different if you tear your ACL in October and you can't do any of that stuff. You can go back and look at that tape in 2024. It's awesome. But to bring up Delane, his actual tape from 2025 was probably one of the best or second best among the draft eligible corners this year.
Okay. And another corner that I have is Avion Terrell from Clemson.
Yeah. He's my number 2 behind McCoy from Tennessee. A little small, but he plays big, forced fumbles, plays on the ball, unbelievable movement, just great anticipation, his read and react, click and close, all those fancy terms. The guy just knows how to play the position. mentally and physically. And he reminds me of how Drew Phillips plays against the run. I mean, that's one positive, right? Is other than the missed tackles, like he is aggressive, and that's what Terrell will play. There are some people that think he's only a nickel at the next level. I don't care. I mean, it's like the offensive line early. You need good nickels now. Everyone's playing with 3-4 wide receivers. I think nickel is actually being undervalued still in the NFL. I think that's a first-round position all day if the guy meets the grade. I think Terrell is in that camp.
Okay. Awesome. I would draft all the corners if we could.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very vulnerable spot for the Giants.
Yes, for sure. Especially, and there's just so many question marks around it. Like if they don't re-sign Flott, someone help us because we're in trouble.
It's again, this is why like you can go up and down this roster and just say like, hey, don't go into the offseason saying that you need a position, right? You need a lot. Just grab the best players and hopefully build this thing the right way.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. We've got a few players in this next game now, Alabama, Indiana, and then Ole Miss and Georgia. So we are going to have to run through them quickly. In Alabama, I just, because I'm a Gamecock, I think I hate Alabama. But I do really like Jeremy Bernard. And I unfortunately got to witness him be an absolute freak against the Gamecocks, where he had multiple touchdowns. He ran the ball. He caught the ball. He was just an absolute freak in every way, shape, and form. So I would love to hear your thoughts on him. And then if you have any other wide receivers from this game.
Yeah. So Jeremy Bernard is a guy he's the go-to receiver for this team. He's not a great athlete, but he's not bad. He's a jack of all trades, master of none. And some people get discouraged by that. Like, is he big? He's 205, but he's not very tall or long. Is he fast? I don't know. He probably runs a 4.55, but he doesn't drop the ball. He's always been a solid yard after catch guy. He blocks his ass off. Like if you watch the Rams wide receivers block, I mean, how big, and the Niners, right? These guys come from the same coaching tree, McVay, Shanahan. I can't tell you how big of a difference it makes for those offenses. Their wide receivers play hard. They block like tight ends or fullbacks out in space. Bernard does that. He's always done that. This kid's going to be a captain for an NFL team down the road. He's just going to be a top-notch intangible guy. He reminds me a lot of Chris Godwin from the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's got elite hands. I mean, he rarely drops the football. He's had a couple injuries late in the year, but he's going to be healthy for this game. Isaiah Horton is their other wide receiver that is worth looking at in this draft. He's their number 3. He's had a couple of really shining moments. He was a transfer from Miami a couple of years ago. He just doesn't get enough looks to say like, hey, is this kid good or not? Because there's plays where I'm like, this kid looks like borderline special. And then you don't hear from him for 3 games. So I just think that happens a lot in these offenses that have 2 credible NFL talents at wide receiver. They have an NFL tight end. They have a couple NFL running backs. But here's a name that's going to be polarizing. You might want to get a bag out if you start getting nauseous here, right? But Caden Proctor, the left tackle, is a guy that most people had as the number 1 tackle in the draft from Alabama. I think there's some PTSD in the Giants fans.
No doubt.
He's a freakless guy. So is Evan Neal. But I'll tell you, and he had an awful first game against Florida State. Like he had an Evan Neal caliber game. And at that point, most people just are like, nope, can't do it. Not even going to look at him for the rest of the year.
But FSU has a couple good defensive linemen now.
Who?
This is a good matchup. FSU.
Yeah, they do. And and again, I never want to use one game. They were on a wet turf back then too. Week 1, who knows who's ready, who's not. I'm telling you this right now. I think he might be the first tackle drafted this year. And he is a different level of talent. He's different than Evan Neal, but there are issues with body control and balance. That is where it gets ugly for him. He's 300. He's probably too heavy. He's probably 350 pounds, 360 pounds, but he is different than Evan Neal. So I want everyone to kind of take away the helmet scouting for him and watch him in this game and tell me what you think. Tell us what you guys think, because the Giants, if they want to get dominant on the offensive line and they don't have a elite wide receiver to take or a corner or a defensive lineman, but if you have an elite grade on him, do you dare dip back into this pool of Alabama tackles and have them change over to the right tackle side? I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no at this point. It's too foolish to do that. But this is a kid. The rest of the year, by the way, after that Florida State game, no sacks allowed, no penalties, not one.
Wow.
Like that's not Evan Neal. That's not Evan Neal at all. So if they don't sign a Luminor and you're not sure about Marcus Bowe, This kid's going to be in the discussion whether you like it or not.
Well, and also we're going to have a new coaching staff.
Yep.
Carmen Brasillo, I think, can only do so much when Evan Neal has been here for 2 years. He's not advancing. He's not, I don't know. There's been questions about work ethic. He's got a lot of injuries. Like,
you
know, I don't know.
So part of it, again, everyone got Evan Neal wrong. I got him wrong. I'll say it out loud. I got Evan Neal wrong. But who knows? Was it the eval? Because I went back and watched his tape. I know the Giants did too, by the way. They watched his tape. Like, where did we get this wrong? It could be him. Maybe he didn't work hard. Maybe he lost his confidence. Maybe there's a psychological issue there. Maybe he couldn't understand the playbook. I mean, who knows? But I'm not going to say no to a really good player from the same program just because of Evan Neal. Now, he still has to play well, Caden Proctor. I'm still unsure about him. But if he has a big game here and they advance further on against future NFL pros, it's going to mean something because this is not a very strong offensive tackle group this year.
Yeah. And we need help wherever we can get it.
Yep.
You mentioned a tight end. Would love to hear a little bit more about that. And then maybe we could talk a couple defensive players and then real quick, Ole Miss and Georgia, because I've got like already a bunch of Georgia players, like always. What else is new?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, Josh Cuevas from the tight end from Alabama. He's coming back from an injury. I don't think he played against Oklahoma in the first round. He's an emerging tight end. It's a fifth-year guy. He worked his way up from Cal Poly. He transferred a couple times, and now he's a really solid mid-round option, similar to Theo Johnson in that's probably where he's going to get drafted. He's a different player, but his pop and his effort there are both there as a blocker. He's an inline guy, wide tight end, a guy that I would love to see. If you're going to move on from Daniel Bellinger, you need to replace him. And this is the kind of guy you'd want to replace him with. Daniel Bellinger, also a fourth-round tight end. And this is the kind of guy that, hey, soft hands, decent after the catch, blocks really hard. Let's see what you got. Put him in the depth chart and see what you got with him, and let him and Fedoni compete next year for that backup job.
Okay. I really like Daniel Bellinger. I think they're probably going to let him go, but if they can get someone who is reliable like Bellinger has been, they definitely need that. All right.
Absolutely.
Any defensive players? I know we've mostly talked about Alabama, but anyone from Indiana we should know?
Yeah, I mean, Indiana's got, if you want to go talk about a nickel, they have an undersized kid. His name's D'Angelo Pons. He's one of the most productive corners in the nation over the past couple of years, but he's like, he might not even be 5'9", but he plays big. But again, you're still, it's like Wan'Dale Robinson. You love him, but hey, there's a limit to how much they can do at that size. He came over, he was one of many James Madison transfers when Cignetti came to Indiana. He's got excellent technique. Sometimes those undersized guys are actually better at controlling their bodies, just less mass to move. And he plays big down the field. I've seen him break up big passes against big receivers down the field multiple times over the past 2 years. They have a linebacker. Maybe you can dip back into the Indiana linebacker pool with like Micah McFadden. You have Aiden Fisher. He's very technique sound linebacker. He also came from James Madison. His value is beyond what he does on the field. You got to be careful with those guys. Like, they got to still be fast enough and athletic enough, but he's kind of like that Antonio Pierce, smarter than the offense type. He can forecast what's going on. And I like that. I like that, having at least one of those guys at linebacker. And if you want to reshape that linebacker room, in my opinion, you pursue one athlete and one guy that is the brains. And I think Aiden Fisher would be the brains.
Okay. And when we talk about the linebackers, like, I don't know what they're going to do about Micah McFadden. Darius Muasau is the only guy who's him and Bobby Okereke. There's been talks about maybe they would cut him. So
yeah. He's an expensive guy that just isn't doing that much for the defense. And I like him. Intangibles there, but I've been off him since the Dallas game early in the year when he just can't move well enough anymore. He's physical between the tackles. He's solid, but you can't have two linebackers that lack range. You just can't. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Especially when you already can't stop the run.
Yep.
All right. My top two from Georgia are linebacker CJ Allen and then defensive back Dalen Everett.
But I love both of them. I really do. I think both guys are future pros. CJ Allen might be a first-round pick. That program, Kirby Smart, has pumped out so many good linebackers into NFL. Like, he just trains them well. And he's big, he's physical, he's fast. He doesn't come off the field against the pass. That's a guy, again, you're going to keep me here. I'm going to say this 1,000 times between now and the draft, that the top of the second round is where you're going to get a CJ Allen. And I would love the Giants in their pursuit of trading down and moving around. If they can get a few different picks in that like 25 to 50 range, you can get a few of these guys. You can pursue that offensive lineman that I talked about. You can pursue a CJ Allen. Dalen Everett's going to be interesting because I don't think he's going to test exceptionally well. And that's big with corners more than any position in the NFL draft. Corners, their testing matters. Their 40s, their jumps, their verticals, the three cones. Again, like I said earlier, with arm length, with defensive linemen, and in some cases, corners with Delane. If some of these guys don't run a certain number, teams won't even look at them. And I don't personally agree with it, but hey, I don't get paid the big bucks. They do. So, but Dalen Everett, to me, he's played big in so many different big games, playoffs, SEC championships. He had to pick, I think it was in the SEC championship this year against Ty Simpson. The guy just knows what to do. And it's similar to Delane. He knows how to play the position. Avion Terrell, he's physical. So that's a guy that I would love to get if he's available somewhere day 2.
Okay. Good options for both of them. Anyone else from the Ole Miss Georgia game?
Man, there's a left tackle. I'm not sure if he's going to come out. His name's Monroe Freeling from left tackle from Georgia. He's going to have a decision to make. I think he could lean towards the draft this year. He's been playing for a year and a half. He's got enough experience to say like, hey, this guy can play. And again, this offensive tackle group, it's a weak group. And because of that, you might get someone on the bubble like Monroe Freeling, the left tackle. Again, he's 6'8", 320. Kind of reminds me of Eric Decker from Detroit, just how big he is, but how easy it is for him to bend. He's had a really strong year. I think that's a kid that you can watch and say like, hey, I can see him playing for us. From Ole Miss, they don't have a ton of NFL prospects on this team. They don't have anyone that I would say is a first, second, or even third round pick. And it's rare to see a team this good, but they just Lane Kiffin did a really good job there. That's why he got paid the big bucks from LSU. But the one player that I would say is interesting to me is Daquan Wright, a tight end who is, man, I got to say, he's probably 6'4", 260. He's just a big boy. He led the country in yards after catch per reception as a tight end. You look at him, you say, oh, he's not a 4.4 guy, but he's physical and he knows what to do with the ball in his hands. He's some of these tight ends are really good at knowing where the defense is going to be after they get the ball. And that's the kind of guy and he's a good enough blocker. I like the size that he brings to the table. That's a fun kid to watch.
Okay. Awesome. And then I have a couple other players on here that are kind of just random, but I wanted to get your thoughts on Giovanni El Hadi, the guard from Michigan, and Armaj Reed Adams, the Texas A&M guard too, because I know we're all on the offensive line, guys.
Yeah, I mean, both those, I mean, you're going to have to look at everyone, to be honest with you. So the sooner we start, the better. Both those guys are power-based blockers. A lot of guards are. But I'll tell you what, and I'll get into the Texas A&M teammate in a sec, but I like the kid from Michigan a little bit better. I just think his footwork, like one of the things I'll look for before I even look at if they're winning or losing is I'll watch 10 snaps and I'll just watch the feet. I won't look at anything else. And can they get their feet off the ground? Can they redirect? If they have to quickly redirect laterally, do they lose their balance? And he has a little bit more upside there. Michael Onwenu, who is now a right tackle for the Patriots. He's played tackle and guard. Sorry, a right guard. He's played tackle and guard for them. He was a 5th-round pick by them from Michigan. And we saw him at the Shrine. And I remember watching Shrine practice with the coaches from Shrine. And that was the thing they said, like, just watch his feet. And like he was losing. He was kind of misplacing his hands. He was holding, but his feet were just like stepping all these blades of grass, like pop, 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 pop. That's what I see from him. And that's what gives him that upside look. But the name I want you to watch, and he's a junior, Chase Besantis. He's the left guard from Texas A&M who played right tackle, local kid from where I am. He's from 10 minutes away from me. I don't know him personally, but I like his tape better. I think his NFL projection is better for teams that want a little bit more athleticism at guard. He did play tackle for an entire year. Didn't have the greatest game against Miami, but a lot of people don't. There's 5 pros on that defensive line. I wish he played better there. But he's a mid-rounder that I think would fit really well with the Giants situation because he doesn't need to play right away. You can develop him for a year or two behind Runyon.
Okay. Well, and they're gonna have so many spots for offensive line with Evan Neal, Joshua Zulu gone, like Van Roten, they don't resign him. So Schlotman's gonna be a free agent. The list goes on.
It does. The list is getting long.
I know. A lot of holes for this Giants team to fix up. But we covered off on a lot. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna link the draft guide because you guys have that coming out again, right?
Yep, always.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And
the
then
Ourlads draft guide, the Ourlads Insider can get you the website, because I know this day and age with companies need to make money, the ads on websites can get a little frustrating sometimes. The Ourlads Insider account can give you the website ad free, which is I have a couple guys. Daniel Jeremiah has it. He says it's such a difference maker for him because of the depth charts. Everyone's using the website for the depth charts. To get no ads on there, it's a game changer. It's not expensive, and you can bundle that into a draft guide as well. So that's a nice little, you go to ourlads.com, you get all that information there.
Awesome. I'll link everything in the show notes, and make sure to follow Dave on Twitter too.
Yep. All right. Thank you. So it's good to talk to you. I'm sure we'll talk again before the draft.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for coming on.
No problem.